Hello, everybody. Leah here with Exit Realty First Choice with our special guest, Andrei Akbashov. Andrei, welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I know you are the owner of Akbashov Tax Group. Oh, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm an accountant. I own an accounting firm, a full-service accounting firm in Forest Hills, Queens, where we conduct our business. We have been open now for 5 years, and I've done a lot of work in public accounting firms for many, many years before that to gain all of this experience. And we provide full array services for taxes and accounting, so bookkeeping, sales tax, tax returns, opening up corporations, closing corporations, sales tax, payroll tax, and everything else in between.
Wow, wonderful. Where's your office located?
I'm in Forest Hills, 7009 Austin Street. We're on the second floor, suite 204.
Okay, interesting, wonderful. Well, tell me something. I know tax season is here, right? What are some common tax-related questions that your clients ask you?
Some of the common questions for taxes, I would say that people want to know how they're getting paid. People want to know what the differences are between W-2 and 1099 and all the other services that, first of all, accountants provide and how they get taxed, right? So you receive a form at the end of the year and you don't know what to do with this form. You don't know how much you paid already. Maybe you haven't paid anything at all. What are some of the deductions that you can take, right? What's allowable by IRS? What are they allowing people to deduct as far as expenses, and as far as car-related expenses, any other administrative expenses? They want to know what are the thresholds. How much can I deduct? How much of my personal related stuff I can deduct? And what are the different categories that are deductible? I feel like it's extremely important to educate the clients, so this way all taxpayers find out what's important as far as receipts to be able to save, and what's important to understand when it comes to taxes. What are the forms I should bring with me? What are the things to pay attention to throughout the year? And what are some of the things I can do in order not to be too late with presenting this information and filing the different taxes I need to file?
Interesting. Tell me, what do you think are some of the most common mistakes that tax filers and business owners make when relating to their taxes?
That's a good question. So planning, right? You need to plan before you execute anything, whether it is applying for a job, find out how they're going to be paying you, what rate they're going to be paying you, how they're going to be taxing you. Maybe there is a chance that you could possibly be qualified as a self-employed or sole proprietor, where you can get a 1099 and you can get away with some expenses, right? Because when you're a W-2 employee, you get just simply taxed 35 to 40%, depending on the tax rate and the amount of income that you have, right? You could be possibly getting taxed all of this money and not being able to deduct any of the expenses that you have. So that's one route, and you should probably demand a higher salary for something like this. When you're possibly could be qualifying as a 1099 employee, then you're able to take a bunch of deductions that are related to your business, and the more you deduct, the less tax you pay. So for those type of jobs, usually they cut a little bit, and they give you a little bit of a smaller pay because they know that you'll be paying a lot less taxes on that, and you'll be able to put a lot of the expenses company related or individual related through that entity. So I feel like education is extremely important, and it's extremely important to plan. I see a lot of people who are overpaying tens of thousands of dollars in taxes simply because they have a wrong entity, right, for whatever business they're using. Now we're talking about business taxpayers, but it's extremely important to be able to choose the right vehicle, I like to call it. It's like a car. Right? So if you're going on a road trip and you're just taking your significant other, you might want to take a convertible if it's nice weather, right? It's going to solve that purpose. But if you want to take 6 kids with you on vacation and it's a long road trip, you want to get a minivan, right? That's going to solve that purpose.
Right.
If you're transporting some heavy duty equipment around, you want to have a pickup truck. So depending on what you're planning to do with this business and exactly what service you're going to provide, I think it's extremely important to first figure out, okay, what's my goal? Is it my goal to build this business and make it very big before I start taking any of the profits out? You might need one type of entity, right? If you're providing some type of service and you're just a family member where you're using this to pay your bills, you need to take as much out as possible and pay the least amount in taxes. It's a whole different strategy, right? So it really depends what your goal is with the business. Once you figure that out, then you're able to sit down and have a decent conversation with your accountant that should be able to sway you into one of the different vehicles that we have available for people who want to fit inside of that plan. So planning is extremely important. I feel like once you're able to plan out your future and how you want to delegate this money that you're going to be making from the business, then I think you should be able to pick a right tax strategy to help you achieve your goal. That
And
should
you
be the
and
way.
you typically plan in the beginning of the year?
Planning is done anytime. So before even the business is open, I feel like that's the perfect time to plan. You plan before you execute, and you choose the right vehicle, then you open that type of corporation or LLC. Once you're rocking and rolling and you're already conducting transactions, I feel like that's the time to plan and see how much money you want to end up with at the end of this tax year and how you're going to spend this money and allocate and plan for that, for those funds. Whether it's going to be maybe even taking this money for yourself as payroll or a dividend or distribution, or there's many different ways that your money can get taxed, depends on what you call it. So, and also depends on the vehicle you're using, what type of entity you're using. We have C corporations, S corporations, LLCs. A lot of people are very confused about what all those things are. And then typically they go to the internet and they say, okay, let me go online and try to research this. And doing that will only confuse you even more, because now you have all of this information that you don't know how to apply properly, because the laws are so strict and tricky, and they're if and type of laws, right? So if this happens and that happens, then the result is one. If this happens but that doesn't happen, the result is completely different. So there are a lot of factors that determine certain outcomes, which is very difficult for someone who's not in our profession to try to pick up, very difficult.
Tell me, are we expecting any changes this year?
Yes, there are a lot of changes coming this year. Typically, what I would say is you will see the government cut back now. So the Job Act that came out a few years ago with affecting the pandemic, I think gave people a lot of extra tax credits that we haven't seen before. A lot of things were doubled.
That is
For
true,
example,
yes.
the child tax credit was doubled. The earned income credit increased a lot. So you saw a lot of people who typically receive refunds, receive bigger ones because of it, right? This is not including all the stimulus checks that people received. That was something extra that also came through your tax return. But, this is, I think the trend that we're going to see with individual taxes is the amount of credits that they give you back, those amounts of credits, they're cutting back little by little now. So now they've been talking about getting the meals and entertainment credit from now being deducted 100%, that in 2023 they want to go back to 50.
Yes.
That's another one that they want to kind of take away from us. And people are fighting it in Congress right now, and we'll see how it comes out. But I think the typical following step that comes after inflation usually is, if not an increase of taxes, but a decrease of tax credits. So you limit the amount of money that's on the streets, and how do you do it? By giving less and maybe taxing a little more. So we're going to see it go in that direction a little bit. People should probably expect a little smaller refunds than they received last year. But for the most part, I think a lot of things are being debated upon right now in the Congress. It's extremely fun time just to see how it's going to all play out.
That's very interesting how the government works. Tell me, why should people choose you as opposed to filing their tax returns on their own?
That's a very good question. So there are different types of services that people provide, right? So for example, you can do your taxes on your own if you understand it enough. I would say that if the only thing that you have is a W-2 and you really have nothing else, and you have no kids and you have no home and you have nothing really else to deduct except just the job that you did, right? I think that it's okay to do it on your own for something like this. And if
Right,
you're,
it's a
if you're
standard
more or
tax
less-
return.
more or less capable,
Right.
there's not really that can be done strategically to help you, unless we bring in some 401k contributions or something fancy where you're actually planning ahead. But then now you're getting a little bit more complex, right? So if all you have is a 16-year-old kid who just has a W-2, but even with him you can play, because you could say, we're going to claim him as dependent, we're not going to claim him as dependent, what are we going to do? There's always something to do, but I would say just a simple W-2. It's extremely simple. Once you have more pieces on the board, once you start getting creative with it, you want to start going to someone that is more like on the tax strategy side, that can figure out how to cover all the bases, how to keep you safe, but at the same time be very aggressive and make sure you were not missing any of the deductions that we actually have. Interviewing the client, right? When you interview the client, then you can see exactly what this client is holding, how we can do some extra help for the client. How can we bring in certain things and try to deduct them when other people wouldn't be able to do it? But because of the structure that we can create, we can take certain expenses additional. Now, the reason why, it's a good question, why people should come to our firm, we're we're open all year round. So not all firms are open all year round. We're always there to solve your problems. We're not just there to prepare your taxes. We're going to ask, the questions that we need to ask to get all the information. We're going to prepare everything. And if there's any backfire, if there's any letters, if there's anything else that comes, we back ourselves up, and we always fight for that, and we always resolve all the issues that come. Never leave anything open. We're always there to help you. So I think that's a huge factor, right? To find someone that's open all year round, because you're going to have questions all the time, and that's able to explain them to you and make you understand exactly what's happening, not just dismissing you. And on top of that, I feel like it's extremely important to choose a firm that specializes in everything, that as you grow, they can help you to continue with the business. And if the business grows, we could continue with that. A lot of times I see people coming to me because they say, I outgrew my accountant. My accountant wasn't as sophisticated to be able to help me with X, Y, Z, because now I'm doing so many different things and he's getting confused because it's not really his level. So that's what I always encourage people to try to go to places where they're going to be able to help you for years and years to come. And as you grow, we'll be able to be there for you every step of the way. I think it's important.
Wow. All right, wonderful. Andre, thank you so much for coming in. Guys, whoever wants to use his services, Andre is great. I use him personally myself. He is wonderful, and he always answers the phone. That's what matters.
Thank you.
Right? You have to have somebody that answers the phone. Andre, again, thank you so much. We will bring you back again for a more detailed, we're going to break down this, this whole conversation that we just had with you. We're going to break it down in parts where you give us more information about corporations, about individual tax returns, standard deductions, expenses that we have to write off, so on and so forth.
Sounds great.
All right, Andre, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.